In a world filled with hundreds of different fighting games, the Soul Calibur series has always stood out to me because it replaces simple punches and kicks with a series of unique weapons that I believe add a more personalized and customized touch to what has become a somewhat stale genre recently. Not only does Soul Calibur 4 continue its legacy of extraordinary weapon play, but it also introduces a character creation system that allows you to fine-tune your own character to fit every part of your fighting style. If you're like me, you were probably skeptical when the game first hit shelves at the expected $60 price tag. However, you can now pick up the game at most retailers for about 20 bucks. Is it worth the 20 bucks, you might ask? Well, let's take a look. As we all know, fighting games were never known for their amazing storytelling. In fact, most fighting games are devoid of any kind of story at all, and Soul Calibur 4 is not an exception. Soul Calibur's story is a continuation of the past 3 titles, 4 if you include the PSP port, and basically consists of a bunch of fighters trying to acquire the ultimate power that is the Soul Edge, which exists in the Soul Calibur swords. As to what the Soul Edge is, I still have no clue. I mean, for such a simple storyline, the details seem to be quite clouded and confusing. Every character that you play as has his or her, or its, own backstory and the reason for their quest for the Soul Edge, and some, such as Killick and Maxie's, even intertwine. However, most of the story is told in a Star Wars-esque scrolling text screen that most players will skip over at the beginning of the game. Other than the text-based story, the game has little else to tell, and besides the 2 or 3 cutscenes, you won't get much else in the line of storytelling. For the most part, no matter which character you choose, you're going to end up fighting the same enemies in the same order, some good and some evil, with the final boss being Algal, who was the brother to the guy who died while they were fighting over the Soul Edge or something. I don't know, it doesn't really make a difference. And once you defeat him, you will see a 1-minute cutscene that is unique to the character you are playing as, and even though they can be interesting, it doesn't encourage me to fight through the story mode with every character just to see. Alright, now let's get down to the gameplay. As you would assume, Soul Calibur 4 is basically the same fighting game you know and love, with some minor changes to freshen up the series. The first new change is the addition of a character creation system, which I believe is a welcome addition to the series. I've literally spent hours creating custom characters using this in-depth system, whether it be my own creations, or things a little less original. They did a good job of creating a system that allows you to personalize your character's looks, attitude, fighting style, custom abilities, weapons, and even voice. This allows for some very potentially awesome combinations, and I can guarantee that you're going to spend a good amount of time experimenting with all that entails. Secondly, Soul Calibur 4 introduces a new system that allows you to break your opponent's armor in 3 major sections: upper, lower, and middle, which means that you can no longer just hold the block button and deflect every attack from your enemy. Yes sir, that now means this game actually takes skill. Now when you break the 3 parts of your opponent's armor, which very, very rarely happens, and you get their health and soul gauge low enough, you'll be able to pull off a cinematic finishing move that instantly kills your opponents, and well, just looks awesome. However, my whole time playing this game, I never once met those qualifications, never even pulled off one of these moves. I even tried using practice mode for about 20 minutes to attempt one of these finishing moves, with no such luck. In fact, the only time I actually got this to work is when I was playing with my friend, and told him just to simply hold the block button so I could trigger it. Again, it's a nice touch, but the ramifications require that you basically play against your buddy who's in the bathroom taking a piss, or you will never actually really see this happen. Now the controls in this game are simple enough for anyone to pick up and play for the first time and button smash their way through fight after fight. However, they allow you to get as in-depth as you choose to, for each character has tons of attacks for you to learn and perfect, depending on how much time you really want to spend learning them. Ivy, for example, is one of the most complicated characters because she can fight with her sword in standard form or in a chain-like whip form. Because of this, you're going to have to learn how to effectively switch back and forth between them, and the variety of attacks that come from both. And if you think you've got that all mastered, there's always Ivy's signature move, the Summon Suffering, which has been haunting gamers like me since the first Soul Calibur game. I mean seriously, just look at this thing. Now I've been trying to do this in practice mode for about 15 minutes now, and haven't done it once. Not only do you have to do this crazy combinations of buttons in a row as fast as possible, but you have to be on a specific side of your opponent for it to work, which is extremely difficult, because all the directionals you have to hit move your character around the other enemy. As a side note, if you got the original Soul Calibur game on Xbox Live Arcade, there's actually an achievement just for being able to do this move once. Anyway, I'm sorry to say that I actually could get this move down after about 15 to 20 minutes of trying, and even if you could do this in practice mode, you would probably have to be playing against a blindfolded dead cat with no feet to actually use it in-game. Now, while the game is for the most part free of glitches, I did find a few loopholes in the system. For example, the grab moves are quite cheap and can usually be used over and over and over and over again, and the computer usually does little to nothing to actually stop you. While I did find that on the harder difficulties this was not so much of an issue because the computer would often counter or block your grab, it makes the game seem much too easy on the normal difficulty setting, because if your health ever gets too low, all you need to do is grab moves until your opponent dies. While this is not a big issue, and possibly not an issue at all, it does make the game feel stupid when you can pretty much beat the whole story mode with one move. There are a few different modes of play, which include the discussed story mode, an arcade mode, which strangely enough is longer than the story mode, in which you fight a line of opponents as if you were in an arcade, a tower mode, in which you ascend and descend floors beating the progressively harder enemies that you encounter, and finally a versus mode, which also carries to online, in which you can free battle your friends or the computer. While you will spend the majority of your time fighting in versus mode for fun with your friends, tower mode is definitely a good addition. It allows for strategy and even rewards you with new items for your custom characters when you complete certain challenges. However, it can be hard sometimes because you're not actually told what the challenges are. You're simply given clues. In the end, there is enough to do in Soul Calibur 4 to make up for the lack of storytelling that fighters usually succumb to. Okay, so when it comes to design, Soul Calibur 4 looks great. The visuals are as crisp and clear as you will see in any fighter today. The backgrounds and levels are gorgeous, and the few cutscenes that there are look great. Everything in this game looks top-notch, and the character models are intricately and uniquely designed. To add to that, the music score, which consists of 22 original songs, is breathtaking. And while none of the songs may be as memorable as the Mortal Kombat soundtrack, they truly match the vibe and style of the game. It is worth mentioning that in the museum part of the game, players can spend the extra gold that they earn on items such as artwork, character designs, and other various items that, while they may not be a crazy collectible you're going to want to get all of, some of them are pretty cool, and it proves that they did have a good design team behind the game. The only thing that is below par design-wise is the chants that the characters say before a fight, as well as the announcer in the beginning. However, while they are usually extremely corny and pathetic, and usually sound like something you'd hear in a Twilight movie, I find them more laughable, and in an odd way, entertaining.
Countless warriors have cast themselves into battle for the cursed sword.
Young warrior, let us put your skills to the test. Who the hell are you?
Stage start.
So just as a side note, as you will see in my reviews, I rate games in categories: shooting, fighting, RPGs, and action-adventure. I do this because I do not think it is fair to compare games of different genres together. For instance, while a game may be one of the best fighting games that has been made, it is unfair to give it the same score as such games as Elder Scrolls or Uncharted 2, which are in completely different leagues. So I find the best way to rate games is to give them a score based on the genre they are in, to avoid comparing them to games that are in separate leagues. So overall, Soul Calibur 4 is a great addition to the series, and a great addition to the fighting genre. And while it may lack story and contain minor issues with character balance and have some glitches, it is definitely worth picking up for anyone who enjoys fighting games. Overall, I would give Soul Calibur 4 an 85 out of 100.